Hey everybody, Lewis here with Status Coup. Happy to be joined once again by Ashley and Matt. We are just outside of East Palestine. Fortunately and unfortunately, continuing to see you at the hotel here a year later. In all seriousness, though, like a lot of folks have kind of been in a situation where they're having to go back. Norfolk Southern has kind of been ending relocation assistance for folks at this point. So you all are still here at this point. I'm curious, just an update on your situation. You're still here now. We're recording this, February 1st. What is your situation looking like moving forward?
We don't know. We're kind of in a gray area. Things have happened that wouldn't have happened otherwise if the derailment didn't happen. Like, he lost his job. We're trying to sell our homes. We don't know where we're going to go after because we're in a situation, if someone's renting a home, we're either going to have to pay double or triple what we were in our own homes, or they're not even going to let us rent because there's no employment that we have. Buying a home, we can't do that. No one's going to give us a loan. I mean, we're kind of in a tough situation. We don't feel comfortable going back to the house. I mean, we get sick still. And I mean, if you want to tell them how bad it was whenever you were there 3 days.
Well, yeah, I was passing blood, and then I spent 3 days in a row there. I was selling some of the product and that Ashley accumulated for her yard sales and stuff like that, and I started passing blood and puking blood after those 3 days, and I did that for 3 days.
The price of houses in general has gone up quite a bit. So to get something even comparable to what you have here in another place,
it's almost unviable right now. You almost can't do it.
Right.
And at our mortgage rate, we're going to be paying double the mortgage rate of what we did when we bought our home. So they're talking about the assistance, like the home assistance, really not making up for it because we're paying double the interest rate.
Right, yeah.
And where do we go in between? So even if the house doesn't sell, we use their program, we waive whatever they're saying we could possibly waive for using it. Where do we go in between that? So if the house sits on the market for a year, what happens?
Right.
Like, they don't have a fallback plan for us.
Right. And to your point, like getting a rental is tricky if you're trying to figure out income. Usually you have to have 3 times the rent and income requirements and all that sort of stuff. And to your point as well, I mean, we've noticed there's quite a few homes for sale in East Palestine at the moment. It's not like there's 1 or 2 signs. I'll say they're not every house, but
this time of year it's not common.
It's not common
to see that many.
Exactly. Yeah, in the winter, especially. I mean, if anyone's in the South watching this, in the wintertime in the northern half of the country, selling your house is not normal because it's like everything looks worse because it's winter. People are not looking to go trudge around looking at houses in the snow. So yeah, I mean, there are more than a few homes for sale in East Palestine, and some of them have been on the market for months, basically at this point. So, that's a tricky situation. And so Norfolk Southern has essentially said, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that relocation is supposed to end essentially now, the beginning of February. Correct?
It ends February 9th. So
February 9th.
We all received a phone call. It was very grainy. You couldn't understand half of what they were saying, but they said the relocation will end on the 9th. And everything's done. So we have to figure it out from there. And they're not even asking people, hey, since we're making it right, is there anything that we could help you do, or, other than this home assistance program? Or, are you going to be stuck where you can't go home? I mean, we haven't even had the house test, and I kept going through that. And I know you guys have heard it from me a bunch of times. We need the proper testing. We need all of the chemicals that were initially on that train tested in homes. Because I shouldn't have my eyes burning when I go there.
Right.
I had a couple from Newcastle come up, and they were going to get some of my kids' clothes. And I told them, I said, the derailment happened here. I do not know what's here. If you're okay taking the clothes. And I thought I scared them off. They still came. They were rubbing their eyes. You could tell it was burning their eyes. And they asked me, well, how do we wash the clothes? Now they're starting to think, well, maybe it's not okay. Well, I don't know. We weren't really directed any of that stuff. So if I'm still having those issues, we can't even go back.
No.
They're not asking us.
No.
It also seems that the railroad are rotating out work crews
Mm.
because there will be people that work for these companies. They stay here for like a week at a time,
Mm.
it
Yeah.
seems like, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And they'll stay here at the hotel, and then they're only here for a week,
Right.
and then
They move on to the next job, basically.
well, we've had some of the same repeat people coming back,
Mm.
but it's only for like a week at a time, so they're definitely rotating out their workers,
So they're not-
which raises a red flag.
Yeah, so they
Right.
could be getting sick, or they're like, well, if they're here this long, they might
Maybe.
get sick, and we might have an issue. So that could
But
be
if we
a
send
reason.
him home after,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's just weird seeing the trends too. Like it is known on all aspects of anyone that has worked in town. Like I don't understand, and they're not doing anything to group everyone out and being like, hey, this might be why this is going on. Some people's body burdens are different. Some people are allergic to certain things. I mean, some of the chemicals are found in antidepressants. I'm allergic to most medications, so that could be why I'm more sensitive than most other people. So we really don't know, and they're not doing the research to help find that, and they're not doing anything to clean homes. The home cleaning was for dust,
Right.
so it wasn't for chemicals.
Right.
So people are assuming that it's for that, and then they say, no, it's not. I mean, it's just all over a mess. There's no communication. There's no organization. I mean, people that run mall jobs, like you get a manager from there, they could probably do a better job at getting it organized and having a plan.
Right.
Like it just doesn't make any sense.
No. And I mean, the plan's been all over the place from the beginning. Again, like you don't have to look into this incident for more than 5 minutes to realize that there are so many steps to this that could have been handled in a more professional way. There's so many mistakes that have been made along the way that no one has admitted to. And then, these agencies wonder why if you were to do a poll on the approval ratings or like the trust rating of these agencies, I mean, you're going to have a hard time finding more than a couple people who are like, oh yeah, I totally believe the EPA and all this. I totally trust that Norfolk Southern is doing the right thing here.
Well, and that goes with the trust too. A lot of people I've been talking to, they don't know about the Ford trucks. And I know I've mentioned that to people. So now if Ford trucks were on that train and they burned, you have to worry about their batteries. Usually they ship the trucks empty, so there's no fluids in them. So it's cheaper to ship them back and forth. Well, when those batteries burned, it could have put
and
something
these were
into
electric
the air.
trucks, right?
I'm not sure
Okay,
of the
gotcha.
exact.
They were half gas, half electric.
Okay, gotcha.
Ford
We're not
Maverick.
100% sure because there's 3 different kinds it could be, but it's definitely a Ford Maverick from
Okay.
what we've deciphered from the pictures.
Gotcha.
But a lot of people don't know that's there. And that could be contributing to our numbness and tingling in our arms and in our lips and a lot of different things that are going on. And they're not acknowledging it.
President Biden was absent during this whole thing in the beginning. There were a lot of calls for him to come. He never did. He always kind of said that he was going to be coming, and the press secretary was always, oh, he'll come at some point. Kick the can down the road until yesterday. They made the announcement that he would be here sometime in February. Didn't give a specific day or anything. Apparently the mayor had sent a letter to invite, but now it seems like the mayor is not happy about it. Lots of questions there. I guess, what is your initial reaction to President Biden saying that he'll come now? And do you think that there's anything he can really do at this point?
I reached out in an email in April. I know probably a lot of other people did too. It was a generic response. He forwarded my problems over to the EPA here. So then they contacted me like, what's going on? So like, hey, you went above our head, but now we're going to take care of it again. So nothing's going to get done.
Right. And the EPA is probably like, oh, Ashley, we know who that is.
Yeah, I mean, they do. Everyone, someone answers it and they're like, wait, this is Ashley McCollum? Yeah, it's me. So they know me. But the thing is, like, we've reached out, we've done all this, and it's kind of like you prepare a dinner and you invite someone over. They're like, okay, I'm coming. Nope, we're not coming. And then you do it again. Okay, we're coming. Then we're not. So, I mean, I think we've heard it 4 or 5 times from him. And I mean, I don't care who you are, as long as you're going to help someone. I mean, we're all people. It shouldn't matter what we vote for, what we look like. No one should be in this situation ever. And it is mind blowing that I'm now in this situation when I had a normal life before. Never thought any of this could happen to me. But he has made so many promises that he's going to come and not come. And then he's on a beach, and then he's eating ice cream, and then he's doing whatever else. So, I mean, if any one of us would do that, we would have so much shit for it. But it's okay.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm going to come now. I'm going to save the day. We don't know why he's coming. We don't know anything.
Right.
I mean, we're following a circle where it allows the person that caused this damage to clean up all of this.
Right.
And most people don't know what a circle is. So Norfolk Southern is in charge. EPA watches over them, and whatever the EPA uses money-wise, Norfolk has to pay back the EPA, vice versa. But there's really nothing in there about us. So, I mean, the government should come in and be like, hey, we want to help you. We've had help from some representatives, Congress. We've had some help, but we need more than that.
Right.
And they're not addressing it. He's going to come in here, and I really hope that he does something. Because it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who voted for you.
Right. Like, come the day after it happened, the week after it happened, at that point, I don't think there's, like, much that him being here can physically do, right? But coming a month after it happened or so to see how is the response actually going.
Yeah.
If he came back and actually sat down and met with residents, number one, I think people would have been happy to see him, despite the fact that...
I would have been excited.
Yeah.
I would have been like, yes, he's coming.
Right.
Despite
the fact, too, though, that, like, people politically generally disagree with Joe Biden in this part of the country, which is fine. To your point, it shouldn't matter the politics, especially when, like, a disaster happens. You know what I mean? I think people would have generally been happy to see him come. I think that if he took the time to sit down and talk with folks like you all, talk with folks like the other people we've been talking with on all these trips back, he could have learned, okay, there have been a couple mistakes made, let's course correct, so that the next year of mistake after mistake after mistake just piling up on top of each other could have been prevented. But instead now it's like what, what are you, why and what can you do now? I just like...
But see, and you read all these comments online everywhere, and they're saying, well, your state this, voted that, well, maybe you should vote different next time. I mean, it doesn't matter. My kids didn't vote for this. Someone else's kids didn't vote for this. And I use this every time to explain it. If someone is in a car wreck and their car is on fire, and I go to pull them out of the car, I'm not going to be like, hey, what political party are you a part of?
Right.
Oh, sorry, and walk away. No, you help people, you save the people, and it feels like just people should help people. It doesn't matter what party, it doesn't matter what they voted for. I mean, you're not going to like someone all the time.
Right.
So just help. That's it.
No, absolutely. So we'll see. I mean, on the optimistic, if I'm thinking as optimistic as possible about it, if he comes and actually talks to real folks who are not hand-selected, who are going to say exactly what they're meant to say, and he hears some of the horror stories, frankly, of what has been going on here the last 11 and a half months.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a chance to try to do something, but unfortunately, I think at that point, like, I mean, it's if he admits the mistakes now, that the agencies under his administration essentially have made. And I'm not saying they wouldn't have made those mistakes under anybody else, but I don't see it happening. I hope I'm wrong, but it feels like, it feels like politics. I don't know.
Yeah. He should come in and do something, because then we're getting the sad story from Norfolk. I know this came out in the papers and kind of went over all the other residents' news coverage they were getting around this time. He said, we spent this much money. And basically, like, we're the victim. We're going to have to cut people from our company to make up for those wages. Meanwhile, he has like 8 homes. He could cut his salary for a year, sell some of the homes, because, I mean, we're in a position where we have to sell our homes and leave too. I mean, you have to make sacrifices. It's not being done. So he needs to come in and be like, hey, maybe this circle thing's not working out.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should go the next step and do some type of super fund where some people can stay if they want to. Other people that want to leave can leave.
Have the option to, at least,
and have the same amount of debt. Like, we know lawsuits are going to take forever.
Yeah.
And we know we're not going to make bank off of this.
Right.
No matter what people's perceptions are, if you look at disasters, you're not making a lot of money.
And if you make any money out of it, it's after spending a year of your life or more. I mean, you can say better than anybody.
How long she's still going through things. I think the last one was last year, at the end of the year.
It makes me sick to hear how much time you all have had to invest into just like getting the answers to basic questions, to get like reimbursed for things when it like,
She's on the phone like every day until like 5 in the afternoon. From the morning. To like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right. And I mean, like, that's like time just gone that is like has to be sucked up into that. Like, I'm sure that you don't want to spend all of your days doing that. You know what I mean?
If it wasn't for her and people like her that did that stuff in the beginning, none of this cleanup would have happened. None of it.
I agree 110%.
I mean, they were ready to start the rails 3 days after.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it wasn't for people like her pushing
Mm-hmm.
and putting their foot down, like, I mean, she was fighting every day. I was working 12-hour shifts.
Right.
But if it wasn't for people like her who fought them day in and day out on this, you wouldn't see half that stuff in town being done.
Mm-hmm.
Water collection, you wouldn't see half that stuff being done.
No, I agree 100%. Like even like some of the testing and whatnot too in the very beginning, like they weren't, what they were going to test for, what they weren't going to test for. That same thing was like they only started doing the dioxin testing and all this stuff after, again, same thing. People
When someone
made
came
enough
in and
noise
said,
about it.
here, look, we've got results now. Now you
Mhm.
guys have to, now they go and do it.
Right.
They might have said that they were going to do it anyways, but there is a certain group pushing that. I'm not a dioxin person, but the
Mhm.
people that were pushing that
Yeah.
were dead set. They were
Yeah.
going to do it, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
made it happen.
Mhm.
And the EPA even said in the beginning that they had the wrong machines.
Mhm. Right.
When
On
she
they
helped
admitted on
set
video
up-
saying
It's
that.
on video. Whenever she helped set up that meeting.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm like looking around the room like, is everybody hearing this?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
EPA, seriously, just literally stating that they were using the wrong machines.
Yeah. Like there are so many people in this town who I've learned a ton from. You all become freaking scientists and like experts in like train systems and everything else. It's impressive. I think they were just kind of counting that they were going to be able to get through, and this frankly like low income town that's just kind of a little blip on the map is gonna just have to deal with it.
Yep.
They were wrong.
I tried to educate people on some of the chemicals that went off and like that you should look up SDS sheets,
Mhm.
safety data sheet.
Yep.
The vinyl chloride shouldn't even be in the sun.
Mhm.
Like, and that's just the one chemical. Like, it is that toxic.
Mhm.
It shouldn't even be in the sun.
Mhm.
And they blew it up. Like, that's not counting the benzene. That's not counting all that ethyl hexyl ecrylate.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and that's just one chemical. It shouldn't even be in the sun, and they blew it up.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, if you get that on you, whenever you go to a doctor, it's even on that sheet. Doesn't it say on there?
There's all kinds of
You have to have your
stuff.
clothes cut off of you. And you have to be decontaminated before they can even see you.
Right.
So, I mean, and then we're living in it. We're having people live in it. And this is just like people that work in it for maybe 8 to 12 hours.
Right.
And there's regulations on how long
Right.
you can work in each of these
Be
chemicals.
exposed to working with that
Right.
chemical.
Right.
That's just the one. That's
Right.
just the one.
Yeah, no,
So if it's in the open air and we're testing for it, it's going to go away. Don't worry. But if you're enclosed in your home with it, yeah, well, we don't know about it. So
right.
it's
And
okay.
we can't clean it, and like sure we're just gonna like use a device that we even openly admit wasn't the right device to be using to do it. It's nothing surprises me anymore when it comes to this in particular. If you asked me a year ago, like if I thought that this was gonna be what this turned into, and I would have thought I was a crazy person, like looking back at it.
You feel like a crazy person now with all the stuff that you hear and come across. And you're just like, what?
Yes.
Like sometimes I have to just stand there and like try to process and grasp everything that's going on. It's like, wow, where is my next thought going to go? Because you have this, and this going on. And you're like, you can't give up. You got to keep pushing that stuff because if not, no one's going to know about it.
Right.
Like it is just wild.
Yeah. Well, thank you both very much for taking the time. Unless there's anything else you want to put out there, feel free. But yeah, thanks for taking the time again. I don't even know how many interviews we've done together at this point, but
Write to Biden before he comes here.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you want to write, hey, say you're seeing these people, even say, hey, we're seeing it on Status Coup, or however you want to do it, write to Biden, write to the representatives up there, do it and send them in before he comes here so he can't come here and say, we never heard any complaints from East Palestine or about East Palestine. Like you guys are seeing what they're covering all the time. That would be the best way to help us. And I've heard it the whole time being on this, like, how can we help them? This honestly would be the most beneficial help that you can give us.
And if it gets, I'm not thinking that it's going to, but I'll help connect people to whoever they want to talk to. Like, reach out. We'll connect you to anybody because I mean, people want to share their stories, what's going on. So, thank you both very much for taking the time. I appreciate it.